Yo, 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 yo. What up, everybody? My name is Jermaine Bibb. I'm a pilot based out of Louisville, Kentucky. Bowman Field, Lima Oscar uniform, the home team, all that. I am a commercial instrument, multi-engine rated pilot, and I have over 800 total flight time. I am not a CFI. This video is to talk about a recent ferry flight that I did, going from taking a Piper Archer PA 28 180, 180 181 to from Kentucky to California. This was a very good and fun mission, and I learned a lot. As I always do on any flight and any ferry flight mission, but definitely grateful for the opportunity. So shout out to the folks who plugged me in, and the owners of the aircraft who trusted me to deliver their aircraft safely. So this is a recap video on how the trip went, such as the flight and the planning and all that stuff with what goes into it. And once this video is complete, I'm gonna tell you how I get these ferry missions myself. So stick around, listen to the video. I think it's informative for all pilots, whether you're a low time pilot or a high time pilot. As far as not in the commercial yet, if you're still building your time up, but it's just pretty cool as far as when it comes to ferry flights, and especially when you're flying from the East Coast to the West Coast. All right, so we're gonna start with the aircraft. Like I said, I'm flying a 2001 Piper Archer, 3. It's a PA 28, 180 horsepower. Beautiful Lycoming engine, brand new engine out actually. Just got out of overhaul, less than 40 hours. So they trusted me to deliver the aircraft and put a lot of engine time on that throughout this mission, which I did. And the specs of the aircraft, they had an autopilot, standard six pack, but very beautiful, clean cockpit, automatic trim on the yoke. Like I said, autopilot, two 430 wasses, so I was able to file IFR on this mission as well. And yeah, push a start. Oh, and a push a start. So what I'm used to normally when I'm flying a Piper aircraft, I have a key. So you put the key in. Either you start with the left mag, and then you have a push start button. But it's a push start, but it does not use the key. But this aircraft did not. You have to have a key to start the plane. You just flip the master on, flip the mag on, then push the push start, prime it, then use the push start, which was pretty cool. And it was all up above me. As I'm, doing all this. So that was pretty cool and different for me to a different perspective flying a aircraft. So that was pretty cool to see the push start and just having stuff like that. When I'm flying a Navajo, they have the same schematic system set up at the top where all the buttons and stuff at the top too. So that's pretty cool to see and use. The route that I'm taking, because this aircraft, I think it was when I read it, it was 14,000 feet. The service ceiling, maybe 14. It's definitely 14 to 16,000. I gotta remember what it can't remember what it was, but I stay below 10,000 feet, at or below 10,000 feet. So delivering from Kentucky to from Kentucky to California, and I'm going to Van Nuys, so Southern California, Los Angeles. Um, it I took the southern route. So southern route states consisted of that I flew through was, of course, Kentucky. I went through Arkansas, then Oklahoma, then Texas, then I ended up going through New Mexico, then Arizona, then ultimately ended up in California, of course. Um, I chose this route because of the service ceilings, because the western mountains, the Rocky Mountains and everything. So flew below the Rockies with the lowest peaks of the mountains and everything. Flew between some ridges once I got more close to Los Angeles and everything. But it was pretty dope, fun experience. It's not my first trip flying an aircraft from the eastern part of the country to the western part, but I always advise if your aircraft is not capable of flying at high altitudes, and if you don't want to use oxygen, which I wasn't trying to use oxygen, I didn't carry oxygen with me, but so I planned on taking the southern route. I was familiar with the path, and that was the plan. So that was that. Departing out of Lexington Airport, Bluegrass Airport, Lima Echo X-Ray (LEX), and ultimate final destination was Van Nuys Airport, Victor November Yankee (VNY). Um, um, and I chose that route mainly because of the high terrain in the western part of the state. So just fly below it. How did I choose the airport? So I chose these airports um, based off of fuel prices and services that are available at the airport. So the airports that I chose were Walnut Ridge in Arkansas, Walnut Ridge, Arkansas. Then I flew to Ardmore, Oklahoma, and I'll tell you about what happened with that. But I ended up going to another airport in Oklahoma, Ardmore downtown, which is 1 Foxtrot 0 for fuel because there was some situation with Ardmore's fuel station. Then I ended up going to El Paso. El Paso was my last stop on my first day of a long day of flying, so I planned on landing there no matter what. And not no matter what, but I planned that was my plan. If I can make it there, it'll be a nice trip on the day one. So I landed at El Paso International Airport, then went on to. I didn't land in New Mexico at all. I went to Arizona and landed at Gila Bend, Arizona, Echo 63, and um, that after that was my last fuel stop before I landed at my final destination airport in Van Nuys, where it's where the owner wanted me to deliver the aircraft. So like I said, I chose those airports based off of mainly fuel prices, and they had services available just in case anything was mechanically wrong with the aircraft. Um, I normally I normally have a plan of which way I'm going to go, and sometimes I fly further than I expect. But with a new aircraft, because most of the time, well, of course, when you're ferrying an aircraft, it's your first time flying this aircraft, right? So you really don't know how this aircraft flies. So I did know for sure my first stop on the route was going to be Walnut Ridge. And just to see how the fuel burn was going to be, how I could lean out the aircraft during the day and all that stuff. So it ended up working really well. The trip ultimately took 2 days, well, two days of flying, and the third day was for me traveling back home to Kentucky, which all the expenses, fuel, hotel, overnight fees, and all that stuff was paid for by the new owner of the aircraft. So, how I got that done is that they sent me an X amount of funds. I kind of estimated how much it would cost. I like to overestimate, and how much it would cost as far as fuel, hotel, food, all that stuff for the aircraft and myself. I send that to the owner, and they send me they Zelle, Venmo, whatever, send me a card or whatever, and I use that to kind of pay for everything until the mission's complete. Then whatever's left over, I charge for my daily rate, or we kind of offset it. Then whatever's left over, they'll pay me once the mission's complete. So. Yeah, so I chose the airports based off of fuel and services, which is very important. I don't want to pick the expensive airports because I want to be considerate of the new owners. I don't want to stop at a six airport that's charging $6 a gallon. If I can land at an airport that's charging 470, 480, 450, whatever, the lower side of the fours, or by closer to the fives. Most, of course, we want to do the cheapest fuel, but we definitely want to accommodate just in case anything's going on with the aircraft. So that's kind of what happened with that. That's how I chose my airports. As far as so this trip particular, there was a lot of weather coming in. Of course, it's summertime in the states. A lot of convective activity going around, especially in the middle parts of the day. So my plan was to depart. I departed on a Monday, and we had a big system coming in, even across the country. There was a big front coming in, and troughs and occluded fronts everywhere. So I wanted to depart early in the morning so that I can get in the air when it's most calm. So that's very important. I learned that through just from flying experience and all that stuff. It's always calmer in the mornings and the evenings. During the day is when you got a lot of the buildup of the clouds and convective activity, thunderstorms, and all that stuff. So daytime flying was important for me. Morning flying was important for me. So I made sure I got up the crack of dawn. I did depart Louisville. From Louisville and got a ride down to Lexington where the aircraft was, and talked with the broker and all that stuff, and made sure all the logbooks was there. And I departed pretty early in the morning. And this first leg, which was from Lexington to Walnut Ridge, was on an IFR flight plan. The ceilings were starting to come in pretty low around the time I was departing, and I planned on doing an IFR flight plan originally. Just because I knew the ceiling was going to get low, but they started moving it lower than I expected, because I even considered doing VFR, just departing VFR. That way I'm just flying and, kind of checking out the systems, and I land at whatever, kind of planning as I go. Okay, this is the planned airport I go to, but if I see that my fuel burning is, I'm burning lesser fuel, I'm going to try to make it a little bit more further. So, but ultimately ended up landing at Walnut Ridge, and that was a great flight. IFR got some IMC in there. It did not affect the. I mean, I learned how to work the autopilot and all that stuff. So the aircraft owners definitely wanted me, since I was going to be in the airplane for an extensive amount of time, flying from this side of the country to the other. They wanted me to take notes, what I learned about the plane, avionics, this works, that works, heading indicators off by this much or whatever. How does the fuel gauges? We don't trust the fuel gauges really, but how does those work? As far as fuel burn and time in the air, is the autopilot really working well? All that stuff. So I took notes along the route of flight. Oh, and I did want to say, as far as weather, I use aviationweather.gov for flight and all that stuff, because for flight gives you a briefing. I didn't need to call the weather service, flight service. I just kind of went based off my two resources, which is aviationweather.gov and for flight. But yeah, so, and just to rewind real quick, just to give you a total time of everything, the trip took, let's see, it was, so I got logged over 18 hours of flight, flew through 7 states. I mentioned those states already, 7 airports, two times in Oklahoma, and I didn't land in Mexico at all, New Mexico at all. Over 1,700 flight miles. The cruise altitude was between 6,000 and 10,000. IFR flight plan from Kentucky to Oklahoma, and then VFR to El Paso, and that was on day one. Then after that, it was another flight plan from um, El Paso to California. Yeah, day one early departure. Changed my altitude mid route, so I was on a flight plan, IFR flight plan, climbed up to 6,000, probably halfway between Arkansas and Kentucky. The buildup was starting to the clouds were starting to build up. And I requested a higher altitude of 8,000, and that's where and I was approved for that. No problem, because I'm flying west and I'm flying into the winds too, so that makes me go a little bit slower because of the headwinds. But 8,000 was the altitude that I was approved to climb to, and that mostly gave me clearance above most of the clouds en route, most of the buildups. So I didn't really log but between my climb and initial, outbound of Kentucky, I didn't really log that much actual IMC, just because I'm outside of just flying through clouds, but not nothing anything consistently. And then I eventually climbed through them, descended through them to get into Walnut Ridge, Arkansas, which I filled up, got some food, and hit the road. I mean, got back in the sky pretty much immediately. I didn't want to waste any time when I was making these fuel stops. If I was hungry, go ahead, hit the store or whatever, grab me some snacks, grab me some food real quick, but then look at the weather again, then go ahead and get back and think about the airport I wanted to go to, and I already had a plan. I'm like, okay, I landed at Walnut Ridge, Arkansas. I'm going to Ardmore. Oklahoma is definitely the next spot to go, and each leg was about 3 to 4 hours of flight time. And that worked out really well. I still had probably an extra hour of fuel for the first 2 legs of my trip, going from Kentucky to Walnut Ridge in Arkansas, then Walnut Ridge on to Oklahoma, Ardmore, Oklahoma. So that was pretty cool. Departed after I filled up at Walnut Ridge and got some food. Departed IFR, picked up my IFR in the air, and I was pretty much IFR all the way to Oklahoma. Um, by that time, it was a lot of buildup going on, so I was asking for deviations a lot, which is all good. It's part of being a pilot. You see deviations, and you hear this. You hear the heavy jets actually flying. It's like, okay, requesting deviation, or the ATCs actually is like, hey, just letting you know, this aircraft reported this, or we see this ahead of you. Deviation to your left or right of course is approved. Advised when back on course. And that was kind of the case for me as well. My single engine aircraft. You see these buildups, like, okay, requesting deviations to the left of course, and they say that the deviation to the left or right of course approved. Advised when back on course. So that was all good. We went when I landed at Ardmore, and that was like another 3 hours, 3.5 hours, 3.5 hours from Walnut Ridge. That was my intended airport to get fuel, and they had fuel, but a system just went through there. And when I landed and went to the self-serve pumps, the buttons on the self-serve station was not working properly. So I could not. I spent probably 15, 20 minutes on the ground in Ardmore trying to get trying to get the self-serve fuel tank to work and activate it, take my car and all that, and it didn't. So I had to think on my feet and was like, okay, I'm not about to in the fuel tank in the line shop, the line shack, all the line guys, the full serve, all those folks already left. Like I just missed them. I probably landed around like 5 o'clock, um, 5:15, and they closed at 5. So it was a wrap for that. So I went ahead and went on to there was another nearby airport, Ardmore downtown, and I hope I'm saying Ardmore correctly. Excuse me if I'm not, but downtown, and that's one Foxtrot Zero, and they actually had cheaper fuel, but I just wanted to go to Ardmore because I've been there before. The restaurant food on the field was great, so I was going to try and grab another piece of grub and hit back in the air, but that restaurant ended up being closed too when I showed up. So probably poor planning on my end, but it was okay. I still had snacks left over. But either way it goes, I went on to the next airport, which is nothing but a 5 minute flight to the southwest of Ardmore, Alpha Delta Mike. In Ardmore downtown, got fuel. Literally, this is a quick turn because there was a system coming in, probably that was like 30 miles out. And you know when you're flying, you can see all the rain, the downpour of the clouds and all that stuff. You know it's nice over here, but looks like it's a lot of gloomy over there. And you can see the downpour of the rain. So I wanted to make sure I was fast and efficient and safe when I was landing there and getting fuel. So of course not rushing, but I was I was a little bit in my giddy up. So fueled up there, ground aircraft. Their self-serve tank worked really well, and filled up, checked everything on the plane, did another quick pre-flight, tires and all that stuff, make sure my controls was working properly, the plane wasn't damaged or anything, which is great, nothing leaking, oil was good, everything's perfect. So then figured out where my next destination was going to be, and that was going to be El Paso. So I knew that was going to be the next stop. So of course, topped all the way off, started playing up, quick run up, all that stuff, and we departed to the southwest VFR, heading towards El Paso out of downtown, Ardmore downtown, one Foxtrot Zero. And the reason I did VFR going to El Paso because I wanted to kind of not ask for permission from ATC, but kind of just be on my not be on my own, but just wanted to do what I needed to do to avoid the weather and everything. I still end up picking up flight following though. And flight following is VFR flight following. Just call up ATC, tell them your number, and request flight following at whatever altitude into El Paso. I knew that 8,500 is going to be my requested altitude because that's the altitude that give me clear of all the mountainous terrain and all that heading to El Paso, because that's one of the things. And another reason why I wanted to make sure my stop in Ardmore downtown was quick, because it was already 5 o'clock, 5:30 or whatever at that point, and I knew time wasn't on my side as far as sunset. I'm not a big fan of flying over mountainous terrain at night. So especially at something like 8,500 feet, when you already got a 7,000, when you're only 1,000 feet above the mountains or 2,000 feet above the mountains, it gets kind of sketchy at that point. So I wanted to make sure it was quick, and I wanted to take advantage of all the daylight that I had. So yeah, end up landing in El Paso at night, which was very beautiful, so breathtaking. And it probably was a hour, maybe almost an hour after sunset. So I think I ended up making it like exactly at sunset in El Paso was set to be at 8:15. I think I actually landed at 9:15. So, and I was already made it over the city at that point where I could see the city, and it was just beautiful. So I was well clear of the terrain. ATC was looking out for me, making sure that I knew where to go and if I needed to vector off and following this pathway just to make sure I was safe getting over that terrain. But probably the last 40, think I logged like point 0.5 or so. No, not point 0.5. Yeah, probably almost an hour or so of nighttime. Going in, and I got to log the night landing going into El Paso, which was pretty cool and just a breathtaking view. Because my first time going into El Paso, I didn't think El Paso was that big, so I just wanted to do that and experience. It was just a good experience to see. And flying in El Paso International Airport is always cool. Talking to those guys in that airspace and all that stuff. So that's my overnight spot. That was day one. Day two was actually shorter, and because I'm only landing at one airport and I'm keeping it pushing. Okay, so overnight in El Paso. Told the guys to fill it up, to fill up the tanks, top me off, and this was the most expensive airport that I've landed at throughout the trip. And which was fine because I'm already over budgeted for the I already over budget for the trip. This probably didn't make much of a difference. The fuel was probably just $6, $6.50 or something like that, $6.70, but it was worth it because I was overnighting. But yeah, I woke up early the next morning. Made sure I got some rest just because day one was a long day. And I got my day started. And the first leg was in Gillibin in Arizona, and that was also IFR flight plan, and that was gonna be my only stop. So I got checked out everything, departed El Paso via not VFR on my IFR flight plan. They had to vector me around a little bit just because um, they had to vector me around a little bit because the slow climb and the Archer was not able to let me, I couldn't go straight into on my route because of the mountainous terrain. So they had to vector me to get until I got to my altitude, and I think I did 8,500, and that cleared me, and they put me on route. There was a lot of rerouting though between El Paso and California. They had to tell me just go this way, and some of it might have been because of mountainous terrain, and some of it might have been just because of flight planning traffic. So, always happy to accommodate that. Landing in Gillibin, one of the cheaper airports, well, fuel with a cheap, one of the airports with cheaper fuel, and filled up there. It was very, 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 very hot in Gillibin, and this was probably the middle of the day too. So, it was so hot. It was so hot. Like it was cool. It was definitely, of course, it's cooler in the air, right? So, yeah. So that was really a quick turn. I mean, actually, I probably stayed on the ground probably for like 10 minutes to charge up, juice up my iPad. Even though I knew I was gonna be good, I got my battery pack charged and everything. But juice up my iPad and my phone, and then I hopped straight back in the plane after I filled it up and got back in the air. I found an IFR flight plan, picked it up in the air on the way to California. Used one of the suggested routes in 4 Flights flight plan, and that was approved, but then rerouted, of course. But it seemed like they shortened the trip really, but it was all good. I found that at 10,000 feet because I'm on IFR flight plan, so even numbers, minus the not plus or minus 5, so we're good on that. SoCal approach was super cool. A lot of mountain turbulence. I felt that middle of the day turbulence is real. Like I said, rerouting. SoCal airspace is super busy. They're very nice people, but it was just super busy. Like you can tell that they deal with a lot. All the jet traffic, VFR, IFR, general aviation, commercial, airliner heavies, all that stuff, and you know. I tried to make it as easy as I could for them. I didn't, all I did, the most stuff I did, the only thing I did mostly was after rerouting. Outside of rerouting, I just checked in, tail number, altitude, kept my mouth shut. Have any special requests? I know, my time looked like I was making good. And this is actually the shortest leg of the whole trip. So it worked out really well. And then ultimately end up landing in Van Nuys. And which I learned that the new owner told me that Van Nuys Airport is top 3 busiest airports in the nation. I don't know if they said the world, but I know it's for sure the nation. And it used to be number 1 at one point. They said during COVID or something, Teterboro took over. So hey, it was pretty cool. It really was busy. You got all the airports around outside of LAX. You got Burbank and Whiteman Airfield and all that stuff. So it was cool to kind of see that firsthand again because I've been through the airspace before, but this time I was on IFR flight plan, so it was a little easier. But definitely, landing at Van Nuys was a little busy and all that stuff. So it was a cool trip. That's pretty much it. Landed there, taxied over to the fuel pumps for to meet the new owner. He greeted me with open arms because, of course, he's happy to see his aircraft and all put together. It's no scratches or anything, nice and safe. We got fuel, filled up the tanks, parked his plane into his tie down spot, and then we went and go chat for a little bit. Told him, like I said, I took notes for him and all that, and he wanted to hear about the ride and just the experience and how the plane flew. So we talked about that, and that was pretty much it. A lot of people ask me, so a lot of folks ask me, like, hey man, how do you get these ferry flight opportunities, this and that? And honestly, and I'm not no hater, I'm gonna give you game, I'm not, it's not like I know every person in the world, and I try to take every ferry flight. I mean, it's nice to get them. So especially some my CFI, so I don't get my hours daily. But so I'm gonna give people a game, like let them know if they ask me. But so how I get these opportunities is, networking. That's the number one thing. You got to network, of course, right? You got to. I used to work at the airport before while I was doing my pilot, my PPO training. I was filling planes, talking to everybody. Even the job I have now, my full time job I have now, I'm still around airports all the time. But networking is the biggest thing. When you see somebody at the airport, and you know, it's a big community. Go to your local EAA chapter, local events, fly-in breakfasts and all that. Talk to people. My very, very first ferry flight I got was just from somebody on the airfield that knew my name and got my number from somebody. And that was my first trip going to California, flying the Varga Kachina. Perfect. And that wasn't even an IFR equipped aircraft. Old school. Look up a Varga Kachina, and you'll see. And that was a long trip. I logged like 30 hours in that plane. But literally networking will take you so far in life. Like, it's about who you know. A lot of this stuff is about who you know. Another way of doing this outside of networking, I mean, I guess networking leads to this, but I'll be reaching out to airport brokers or aircraft brokers, whether they're independent or they're on the bigger scale. But I'm like, yo, hey, my name is Jermaine. I have this amount of time and this type of aircraft, this type of aircraft, this type of aircraft. Add me to your pilot list, please. If you need anything, let me know. And that's what this one came from, an aircraft broker. So they hit me up and like, hey, I got your name from somebody that works with me, yada yada yada, and boom, I got the gig. So that's big as well. And another thing too I do is I put out ads. I do put out ads. Rather your compensation, because it's competitive out here, especially right now for a lot of the pilots that's looking to build time and that's not instructors, or they're not really working for a CFI company or a airliner yet, or a full-time flying job. They're it's competitive out here, so you can put yourself out there and market yourself on ads on different aviation websites and say, hey, I'm a ferry pilot, I'll charge this. Reach out if you need me. I definitely do that. You can find me on a lot of that. Matter of fact, I got a couple of them I did this year already that got me from the ad, and I try to be competitive as I can because I really want the time. It ain't really about the money to me right now. I know the money's gonna come eventually. It's about me getting that time right now, and that's what's important. And if somebody's paying for my trip, my hotel, my food, the fuel of the plane, just for me to deliver their plane to them, and I get 15, 20 hours out of it, easy. I'll do that every time. I do that every day if I could. Not every day, but I'll do that 9 times out of 10. You feel me? So that's how you do it. And yeah, that's pretty much my briefing on my ferry flight from Kentucky to California, taking a Piper Archer 3, and I just wanted to share this video with y'all, just let you know how the trip goes. If the video is not the edited video, because I did vlog this trip, if it's not in the comments right now, it will be eventually. So keep checking. If it's not, keep checking, because I'm gonna edit the flights and break them down, day part 1 and part 2, and people can check that out, see firsthand, hear me listen to ATC, making my requests and all that stuff. So it was pretty cool. So if you stuck around this long, thanks for watching. I try to keep it on the 30 minutes, which I'm approaching, but it was great to break this down for y'all. If you liked it, give me a thumbs up. If we're on YouTube, for my YouTube subscribers, if you're not subscribed, subscribe. If you got any comments, comment below. Add me on Facebook. My name is Jermaine Bibb, right? And I'm on Instagram as well, Jermaine Bibb _ TikTok, Pilot Jermaine Bibb, and let's network. Let's keep it going out here. So stay proficient, stay consistent with all things you do in life, and keep grinding, y'all. There's no limits to nothing in life that we can't do, and expand your horizons. And I'll see y'all later.